not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated, and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
You're quoted as having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board that you were glad it happened.
The white race in this country collectively are guilty of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively, and therefore they would suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in France with 130 white people off.
No one man should withstand the weight of the world on his shoulders that die when it's over. Ain't no global warming, the world getting colder. Ain't nobody doing shit, they taking our culture. Wake up and see y'all, ain't no balance on one side of the seesaw. We at war with Esau, and ain't nobody down with us. My niggas get up. I know what it's like to wake up fucked up. I know what it's like when the pain cut deep. You can't get on your feet and you just wanna stay asleep. When the shit too much, a nigga needs to roll up. And all you got is this money and it still ain't enough. To live is to survive, gotta hustle to stay alive. My girl don't understand, I can see that look in her eyes. So not the trouble of soul, I pacify with lies. I inflict the pain and wipe the tears of her cries. Baby, I know you heard an apologies in advance. I just pray to God that he give me another chance. Trying to make it to heaven, I got one hell of a plan. Dancing with the devil makes me a hell of a man. Yeah, I'm trying to be a better man, but my nigga down south won't put me up 200 amps. He told me if I needed to put that shit in my hands, is that a curse or a blessing, or do I see at the end?
We learned that 120 of them were from the state of Georgia, the state that my own grandfather was a slave in. Why, to me, it couldn't have been anything but an act of God, a blessing from God, and I frankly sincerely pray for similar blessings from him.
Levels to this, and I said it like I said it cause I wanted to hit. I give credit where it's relevant, we better than them. It's evident we set the precedence to elevate men, but we'll never know the evidence killing other black men. And how we supposed to trust the hand we eat off if we hand fed the very poison we feed off? We don't even need all this extra shit they letting us get. It only hold us back from our excellence. Link some, get together, ball, invest in shit that you value with life. Love my children and wife, love to all of my niggas who can't be free for the fight. R.I.P. all my niggas who passed on from this life. I love my brothers off the strength, whether he wrong or he right. Let your woman have that glory, baby, I'm wrong, you right. The true glory is through God and how I'm shining my light. Bust down Cartiers to see my sins in the night. Now what I call my darkest hours all depends on the price. I just had an 8 with snakes, I seen men become mice. I let my pen speak my mind, the only way I think twice. All that I sacrifice, I should exceed this life.
You don't get freedom. Freedom is never safeguarded. Anyone who is depriving you of freedom isn't deserving of a peaceful approach by the ones who are being deprived of their freedom. And when black people in this country come out from under the mental straitjacket that the Negro clergymen have placed them in, and begin to see that the only way you can get freedom is to get it the same way the white man in this country got it from England, or he says he got it from England. He was willing to pay the price for freedom. When you're willing to pay the price for freedom, then you get it. But the Negro in this country has never been willing to pay the price for his freedom. All of the price that we've been paying in the past has been freedom for the white man. We fought abroad so that the white man in America could be free today to stick police dogs on us, to beat our people in the heads with police clubs, and to turn water hoses on little women and children and babies simply because they want to walk down the street like decent human beings. That's now the only way you can have peace is to eliminate those injustices, and the American white man is not going to eliminate them. He's going to talk that pretty talk, but he'll still continue to practice those inhuman deeds.
Yeah, Congress rally. Shalom, shalom. That's good. What up? What up? Shalom, shalom. What's good? What's good? We back. We back. I know y'all see the title. We're gonna get into it. The beast that is, or the beast that was, and the beast that yet is. The beast that was and yet is. Right? Gonna get into it. Of course, first and foremost, giving all praises to the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Right? We get right into it. So yeah, we're gonna get into this whole little beast thing, this whole 10-headed dragon beast thing, whatever, right? And understand what's going on, right? If you watching the news and stuff, you see what's going on, right? You see good old number 47, talking about Greenland, right? Talking about going up into Greenland. And so now if you familiar with the whole the history of the whole thing, it's Greenland is a NATO country, and the pact that NATO has is the Article 5, which means if one fight, we all fight. If one go to war, we all go to war, right? And so which is putting them in a kind of a crazy predicament, because if Trump goes and invade Greenland, which is a NATO country, what is the other countries gonna do? Then either way it go, it's still NATO will be finished either way, right? Because if they let them take it, then it lets the rest of the world know how weak they are. Then, and how much America really controls everything. Versus if they don't let them take it and they fight for it, then that's the break of the whole North Atlantic Treaty Pact that lasted for 60, 70 years, right? So it's crazy, and the Bible speaks of it, right? And we're gonna get into it. So yeah, just matter of fact, let's start. Let's start at Daniel. Start at in the book of Daniel, right? And chapter. Chapter 4, right? Start at the top. So it says, so this is about Nebuchadnezzar dream and stuff, right? And so he's just, recapping his dream and, talking about, how it was explained to him and the understanding he got from it, right? So that's what, was going on here, right? But we're gonna but let's get this part though. It says, Nebuchadnezzar the king unto all people, nations and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it'd be good to show the signs and wonders that the high God have wrought towards me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom and his kingdom is a everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Right? So you're familiar with the story. He had a vision. Daniel explained it to him. Gave him basically the future of the world after his kingdom goes away, right, for lack of better terms. So then it says boom boom boom. It says I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house and flourishing in my palace, I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. So, he brought everybody up. We know the history. They couldn't really explain it, because they didn't have the spirit. Daniel, the Most High God was working with Daniel. It says, but came in the musicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But at the last, Daniel came before me, whose name was Belazar, according to the name of my God, in whom is the spirit of the holy gods, and before him told the dream saying. So then Daniel explained everything that's going on, right? So we're gonna get to it. So let's jump down to verse 17. Because we gotta understand how this whole thing works. Because the Most High God is still in control of everything, right? He still is in control. So it says this, verse 17. It says, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to attend that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in kingdoms of men." So, so it's telling them like, look, God rules in the kingdoms of man. He does whatever he wants, to whatever kingdom, he desires. Whatever kingdom he want to make great, whatever kingdom he want to make low, he does it. It says, the intent that the living may know. So this is something that we should know, that God is in control. It says that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in kingdoms of men, and give it to whomsoever he will, and set over it the basis of men, right? And that's what we got running this whole joint right now, the basis of man. That's why this earth is so corrupt and in deterioration, right? Because the basis of man, the very bottom of the human species, is running this thing, right? And let's get Job 9:24 real quick. Go to the book of Job, and it says this: the earth is given unto the hand of the wicked. So the people that's running this earth is wicked people, wicked, evil people. The earth is given unto the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges. So he, doesn't bring righteous judgment on this earth. They cover the faces of the righteous judgment, of the righteous judges, which is the Israelites. They hide them by giving you Charleston Heston and Gerard Butler and all these people throughout their movies and their propaganda, and they hide the real judges, right? They give you Caesar Borgia, who was a murderous, homicidal psychopath, and have him pose as, white Jesus, and they hide the real faces of the judges. Then it says, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right? And it's like, if these people is not the wicked, then who is doing these things? What other nation of people is so, is dominant and so counter to whatever God say, right? And change his word, and try to change the meaning of his scriptures, right? Who's doing these things? So back over here. So yeah, it says, so it said, this matter is by the decree of the watchers, and a demand by the word of the holy ones, to attend that the living may know that the Most High ruleth and kingdoms of men, and give it unto whomsoever he will, and set over it the basis of men. Right? That's what's going on here, right? So let's get let's go to chapter 2. Same book, Daniel chapter 2, right? Let's break this whole thing down, right? Let's break it down. So this is the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, right? And so now again, this dream that he got was all the kingdoms after him that was going to come into power and be dominant and ruled, and all those kingdoms, leading up to the return of Christ, right? So he saw that. So Daniel was giving them, letting them know who these different kingdoms is. And so let's start at 32. So Daniel 2 and 32. And it says, this image head was of fine gold, the breast of his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass. Right? So, this is talking about, the statue that he see in his vision, right? And it says, the legs of iron and his feet of iron, and his feet part of iron and part of clay. It says, thou sawest till the stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and break them to pieces. Right? So now this statue is looking at. So now if you look at the metals of the statue, start off with being gold, and as you work your way down to the feet, it kind of cheapens in quality of metals, right? And because the Babylonian Empire was like one of the greatest empires that ever existed, even though they already, they mostly talk about the Egyptian, empire and all that, dynasties and stuff, but, they, a lot of modern society, copy Babylon, and, and they still talking about it and worship a lot of their, philosophies and all that stuff, right? So then after that, you have the Persian and Medes come into power. Then after that, you have the Greeks, then the Romans, then, etc., right? So, then, so, boom, 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 then it says, then the iron was, then was the iron and the clay and the brass and the silver and the gold broken to pieces together and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, that the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Right? So it's going to come upon a time, right, when Christ come back, going to destroy all these nations, and they never to rise up ever again. And that great mountain is talking about the nation of Israel becoming a mighty, strong nation, just like how God promised, and ruling this whole thing, right? Let's go to chapter 7 real quick. Chapter 7, verse 18. And it say, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever and ever. And ever, right? So, again, when that stone that's carved without image smote that image and destroy all those nations, that came before, and set up, and Christ set up his government. Like I said, like it says over here, it says, but the saints of the Most High, which is the Israelites, shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever, right? So that mountain that's going to be established, that's going to be the nation of Israel under, Christ, following, the Most High God, right? So let's get 8 and 8 real quick. Break some of the statute down. Then it says, therefore therefore the goat waxed very great, And when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and before it came up, the fourth notable one towards the four winds of heaven. So out of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land. So it's talking about America, that little horn coming up, right? Out of these other little nations, right? And let's get back over here, right? So it says, so no, all right, we can keep going. Then it says, hold on, I would have pulled it. And it says, this dream, this is the dream, and he will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Right? So, he goes into breaking down, the interpretation of the dream, right? So let's get, let's get First Maccabees real quick. It says boom, boom, boom. All right, so yeah, so boom, boom, boom. So yeah, Maccabees, First Maccabees, 8 and what I want. I think 14. Yeah, it says yet for all this. None of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. Moreover, how they made for themselves a senate house. So this is what they do. Because they don't believe in a king. You get into their history. They don't believe in having just a one king or whatever, right? Because they killed Caesar, right? Then you got. Some of these people that's kind of angry at 47, some of they people because they think he's trying to be a king or an emperor. So even going back then, this is how they get down, right? This is how they roll. So it says, for yet all this, none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. Because they don't want one person, they never even going back to that's why going back to their ancestor Esau, they didn't have kings and stuff like that. They had dukes, right? They always had dukes. Even now in England, they got their dukes and stuff, dukes and Windsors, right? They always ran their thing like that. They always didn't because they're like a cell. They like to work independent, but collab when they need to, right? So it says moreover how they had made for themselves a senate house. And that's what they did. They made for themselves a senate house, right? Even going back to the Greeks, now they got them a senate in a house of representatives. It says they made for them a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily. That's what they do, right? What's the house? The house is what 375 or something like that, right? It's in the house. Then the Senate got 100, I believe. So, it says, moreover, they made for themselves a Senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting a way for the people to the end they might dwell in order, right? So that's how they always kind of run their thing, right? That's how they always kind of run their thing, right? You know, because they never believed in having a king and stuff like that, right? Then it says, so boom, boom, boom. So yeah, you know, they always did it like that. So back over here, it says, this is the dream, and will tell the interpretation thereof to the king. Oh, thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom of power and strength and glory. And whatsoever the children of men and the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven hath he given unto thy hand, and have made thee ruler over them all that are the head of gold. So tell them, look, you know, your kingdom is the head of gold, the Babylonian empire, mighty empire, you know, all that cool stuff. So it's after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Right. So now that's the Roman Empire. I mean the Greek Empire. Then it says, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdue all things, as iron breaketh all things, shall it break in pieces and bruise. Right, so you know that's what the Roman Empire did. Once it came in power, it came in straight dominating everything. Right. Then it says, whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes and part potter's clay and part iron. This is the point. This is where we at in this part of the statue. Right, we went through the whole history timeline of the statue. You know, we kind of briefly went through it real quick. So the bottom of the statue is in the time period that we're living in now, because we know history, right? I hope. Babylonians, they came and went. The Persians and Medes came and went. Greeks came and went. Roman Empire came and went. Then you had the Renaissance, when the French and Britain and them came into power. You know, then they split off, became their own little separate independent nations. America rose up out of that, becoming that little horn that is spoke about in Daniel and Revelation. And now we're here at the bottom of the statue, right? So it says, whereas thou saw the feet and the toes, part potter's clay and part iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in the strength of the iron, much as thou sawest the iron mixed with myrrh and clay. So the kingdom is divided. That's what we're seeing right now. Division amongst these NATO members in the EU, right? Because again, if Trump really get on that and they don't do nothing about it, you know, it's like, what is NATO here for? That's like, it's going to be like, it's just, you know, just use the TV show The Wire to explain it, right? That would be like when Marlo took over the co-op after he done took out Prop Joe, and he went to the first meeting and was like, look, you know, we raising the price of the bricks. And you know what? I don't even know why we keep coming here every week. We don't even need to meet no more. You know what? This is the last meeting we ever gonna have. If you ever want, you know, if you want something, holla at Cheese over there. Right? That's what's going on here. That's what, you know, if they let America take it, you know what I'm saying? You're going to have a Marlo in the Wire situation, right? But then, on the flip side, if they fight them for it, you know, the co-op is finished anyway, right? So it's crazy. So it's the toes part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. And that's what we're seeing when we look on the news. They're being divided, right? And, you know, and it's going to get bad. And it says, but there shall be in the strength of the iron, for much as thou saw the iron mixed with myrrh and clay. So, you know, because their military is still strong. You know, they still have a strong military. You know, military wants, you know, when they come together, right? Then it says, And it says, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And that's what we're seeing. It's partly strong and partly broken. That's why they don't know what to do. Everybody waiting to see on what the good old America is gonna do. Right? Let's get Revelation 17 and 15. And it says, and he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. So America sits on the waters of the world, meaning they got the control of all these nations all around the world, right? Because they got military bases all over the world, right? Over 750 military bases all over the world. I thought it was less than that. I mean, I knew it was the most, but I didn't know it was that much. But 750, right? Crazy. So that's what it means by it sits on, all the waters, right? Because it's, it controls all these different nations military wise and through the American petrodollar, right? And then it says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest, so these are the NATO members, the other countries like France, Germany, these different members, Denmark, all these nations, right? Then it says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked. Right? And that's what's going to happen. They're going to make her desolate and naked. And as we see, they're making her naked now, meaning exposing her, because people looking at America like, you tripping. Like, what are you doing? You about to destroy the whole North Atlantic Treaty Pact that, y'all came up with. What are you doing there, right? Exposing them for being an imperialistic nation that just want to dominate. And people are starting to see it, and they probably ain't going to like it. Because it says that in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore and make her desolate, right? Meaning they're going to turn on this place, right? And we can see, looking at the news, we can see how it can happen, right? We're not saying like this is the exact event that, that's going on right here, but we got to keep our eyes open on prophecy and understanding this could be the very well catalyst to bring forth this prophecy that we're reading. Because, they're already split. They don't agree on how to govern. They always, at odds politically, right? So, all right, so then back over here. And it says, and whereas thou saw the iron mixed with myrrh clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of man. That's what this place do. They try to, act like, oh yeah, we like this coalition of people and this, everybody and all that stuff. And now they're trying to kick everybody out, now they're trying to, flip back into a white nationalist country, right? But they, propagate this whole, immigrants and everybody come, right? And now they flipping back, going back nationalist, right? And it says, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of man, right? And that's what they do. They brought everybody over here to America, right? All nationalities, ethnicities, whatever, right? But what's going on? It says, but they shall not cleave to one another. So you have division. It's not the, the whole, we are, one, we are the world, we are the people over here, right? It's racism, right? That goes on here. It's division, it's people separatism, all that stuff, right? Because it says, but they should not cleave to one another, as iron is not mixed with clay, right? So that's why you have everybody, clinging to their tribe and their way of thinking and, You know, that's their circle. That's what they deal with, right? And everybody, you know, if you don't agree with what I agree with, then we fighting for some reason, right? So it says, in that day, the kings, says, and in the days of these kings shall God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. Meaning, once God established His kingdom, right, you know, ran and operated by His people, the Israelites, and, you know, under the authority of Christ, following the Most High God, Yahweh, you know, it says, what it say? It should not be left to other people, meaning we're not going to get conquered. Jesus is not going to be sitting on His throne and got soldiers marching in on Jerusalem. Be like, oh my God, what's going on? And, you know, and no, it's never, ever, ever going to happen again, right? It's not going to, you know, so we're never, ever have to worry about going to captivity, being oppressed, none of that cool stuff, right? So, it says, for much as thou sawest that the stone was cut of the mountain with thy hands, that breaking pieces of iron, brass, and clay, and the silver, and the gold, and the brass, and the clay, and the silver, and the gold, and the great God have made known to the king that what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is true. Meaning these things is going to happen, right? So everything I told you, Nebuchadnezzar, is going down. Then of course, we live in 2026. We can look back to history and saw all these things happen that Daniel told him, right? So when we get to the toes portion of the statue, and we actually living in it, we can see it. We can turn on our news and see that NATO and the EU don't agree on nothing. They, you know, fighting each other. They don't know what to do with Russia. They don't know what to do with the Middle East. They about to go to war over Greenland. So, I mean, our dear brother Daniel knew exactly what he was talking about, right? That's why we know the Bible is true. So, then it says, yeah, okay, that's it on that, right? So let's get to, let's jump to Revelation real quick. Let's go to Revelation. And, Revelation 17. Revelation 17. So yeah, you know, let's get this real quick. Let's get, says, and it shall come to, what it says, and there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, right? So, like, I'm going to show you what's going to happen to this place. You know, all the stuff they've been doing, all the wickedness, I'm going to show you their judgment, right? And let's get Jeremiah real quick. Jeremiah 18. 18 and 6, I think. So Jeremiah 18 and 6 says, O house of Israel, cannot I do with you as potter, said the Lord. Behold, as clay is in a potter's hand, so are ye is mine, O house of Israel. Right? So, you know, God is like, look, you know, you like clay in my hand. I can do with you whatever I want, right? You know, we as people. So, of course, that goes double for the other nations, right? Then it says, in what instant shall I what instant shall I speak concerning a nation and a kingdom? So this is how we got to understand, because people be like, well, you know, well, not everybody's bad. You know, what about blah, 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 blah. But you got to understand, God judges kingdoms and nations. When He judges, yeah, we go through our stuff on an individual level, right? You know, through the choices we make. But when God passes judgment, He passes judgment on whole nations, right? when Israel went into captivity, Daniel was right there with them getting marched into slavery, right? The whole book of Daniel is written with him being enslaved, right? And so many other prophets was in the same predicament, right? So we got to understand that. So it says, at what instant shall I speak concerning a nation and concerning a kingdom to pluck up? So if God want to destroy a whole nation, he done it before, Sodom and Gomorrah, so many other, civilizations and nations that have been destroyed throughout time, right? It says, pluck up a nation concerning a kingdom, to pluck up and to pull down and to destroy. If a nation against whom I pronounce turn from their evil, I will repent of the evil that I thought to do unto them. Right? So, but of course this place is not going to repent because judgment is already passed on this place. Right? It's already said what's going to happen. Right? And this place is nowhere near thinking about repenting and saying, you know what, we sorry for all the stuff we've been doing. Right? So, it's going to happen. Back over here. So it says, I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Right? It's going to happen. Then it says, with whom the kings of the earth had committed fornication, and the habitation of the earth had made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Right? Let's get 2nd Esdras real quick. In 11. So it says this. And it says, art not thou if that remainest the 4 beasts whom have made reign in my world, that the end of their time might come through them. So God is like, aren't you, part of that 4th beast, that I let reign in my world, in my, right? Then it says that the end of their time might come through them, meaning they're going to be the downfall of themselves, right? That's why we're seeing NATO imploding live in front of everybody, right? And everybody is looking like, what the heck is going on, right? So it says, let's get Revelation 18:1. It says, after these I saw another angel come down from heaven having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried with a mighty strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils. Because that's what's all here, that's devils. And it says, in the hold of every foul spirit, in the cage of every unclean, hateful bird. Right? That's what's running this place, right? This wicked individuals is in this place now. Right? Back over here. And it says, in the 4th came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression. Because that's how they rule this place, with wicked oppression. That's why he think he can go on TV and say, I want to go to Greenland. Let's go to Greenland, everybody. Greenland is pretty green. It's better than Iceland, I bet you. It gotta be. It's called Greenland. Right? So that's why he can say those things, because they ruled with much wicked oppression, and so long time dwelt he on the earth with deceit. And that's how these people rule. They dwelt with deceit. They propaganda. And they deceive the world. And the world is waking up like, hold on, these people is not so tough. You know what? Matter of fact, these people are kind of falling off. I think we can take them now, right? So, what's the name? I was listening to Denmark and some other people. They was like, look, we know we ain't got no army to go against America, right? But look, we got to uphold our end of the bargain. So we're going to have to defend Greenland. So they know, they ain't got the the army to go against America 1-on-1. But of course, that's NATO probably ain't gonna sit back and let that go down like that. But it's crazy. But then at the same time, when you look at the thing, America is NATO. A lot of their firepower, a lot of their, soldiers and all that technology come from America. So it's just crazy though. So it's like, it's wild. So it says, for the earth has not judged with truth. And that's what happened. These people don't run this place with truth. They run with deceit, like we just read. Right? It says, and in so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. For the earth has thou not judged with truth. So they don't run this earth in truth, right? They run it to see how they can fatten their pockets and further their domination, right? It's not about justice in this place, right? Then it says, For thou hast inflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceful, thou hast loved liars, and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and has cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. Right? So it says, thou hast loved liars. So they love, these liars, these people that can help further their agenda. They get on the news and say, they're bringing in drugs. They're going to bring in drugs from Venezuela. And they get down to Venezuela. Now we're talking about oil. Got to get that oil. So, like, what happened to all the drugs and stuff that you was talking about? Right? You didn't hear anything else about... Once they took our mans in Maduro, you didn't hear anything about drugs. It's all about the oil. Got to get the oil down there. So, it says, they rule with deceit. And it says... Where that? Boom, boom, boom. For thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceful. Right? We going into, talking about Greenland and stuff, right? Talking about Canada. He had a screenshot of map today with Canada being part of America. With Venezuela on there too. That was kind of funny, right? Crazy. And it says, thou hast inflicted the meek, thou has hurt the peaceful. Thou hast loved liars. And they love those people with the little curly stuff on the side of the little saucer sitting on top. They love those other little war generals and those other, people that, is lining their pockets and funding, this war and everything else for whatever their agenda may be. Right? Then it says, and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and has cast down the walls such as did no harm. So then they go into these places where they got all these good natural resources and, that could actually benefit the people and make them, a good prosperous nation. But what it says, and destroy the dwelling of them that brought forth fruit, and has cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. That's what they do. Right? Who's this talking about? Right? That's what they do. And it says, therefore is thy wrongful dealings come up unto the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. So God see everything that they doing. That's why he's judging them, right? And, and he's making them, make all these stupid decisions and causing them to have dissension amongst themselves and going to make them fight each other. And eventually destroy each other from the inside, like we read earlier. And it says, the highest also have looked upon the proud times, and behold, they were ended, and his abominations were fulfilled, and therefore appear no more. Right? So God says it's gonna come a time, a future near you. We ain't gonna worry about this place. This place is not gonna be dominant. They're not gonna be wicked. They're not gonna be controlling nothing. Because it says, and therefore appear no more thou eagle, because that's their symbol. They love their little eagle. That's their, their spirit animal, right? Because again, when you get into the history of Edom and there are different gods that they worship. One of their, and I've been meaning to look up the little punk's name, you know, but I do know that it's a half man, half eagle. You got a face of a man, the body of an eagle, and that's the thing they used to worship, right? And kind of look like Mr. Burns, you know what I'm saying? When you look at the bust, the little old figurine that they made, right? It's crazy. But that's what they worship, and they always, you know, idolize and worship the eagle. That's why no matter what they call themselves throughout history, whether they wanted to be Greeks or Romans, you know, they always used the eagle. Hitler, Nazi Germany, they had the eagle. Britain, everybody, they love it, right? That's what they do, right? So what does it say? So therefore appear no more, thou eagle. So you will not appear no more. And it says, neither thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor thy vain body. So no more military power, no more military might, no more influence, no more, you know, none of that. It's all going to cease. And it says that all the earth may be refreshed and may return, being delivered from thy violence. So the whole earth is going to be refreshed and rejoice, being delivered from thy violence. Because these people are the most wicked, violent people on the earth. They are the cause of your problems. Whatever's wrong in your life right now, they the problem, right? They the cause. Whatever's going wrong right now, they the problem. But no, seriously, you know, like I said, they are the catalyst to a lot of wickedness in this planet, right? And we're reading it. It's not our opinions that we're saying. The Bible is telling us, and we can also look at history and say, yeah, that's about right, you know? So it says, therefore appear no more, thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor thy vain body, that all the earth may be refreshed and may return, being delivered from thy violence, and that she may hope for the judgment and the mercy of him that made her. Right? So the earth is going to be happy that these people are taken down. Right? It's going to be a rejoiceful occasion. You know, of course, when it all happened, you know, it's going to be like, oh my God, dang, that's sad. Because, you know, it's going to be shock. You know, it's going to be like devastation. Because when Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and all that stuff happened, everybody was, you know, the world was silent for a little bit. You know, because it was taken back. It's like, whoa, you know, what the heck? It's going to be like that for a hot second. But then, you're going to wake up and be like, what? I ain't got to pay no bills. What? I ain't got to go to work ever again? Like, what? It's a new what? Then you're going to forget all about that, right? It ain't going to be so bad. Because you're going to feel the release of the oppression, right? Have you ever, you know, been in such a bad situation or a bad place, and then you're able to escape it, and then when you sit and realize, wow, this is really nice being here. It's so much better being over there. Then you're able to analyze how much better it is being over here. Because you've been through hell over there, right? So, it's going to be cool, right? Back over here. Let's get Jeremiah 51:7. Right? Jeremiah 51:7. And it says, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. You know, so, because God, you know, like we read earlier, we're like clay in a potter's hand. With clay, like a potter, he can do whatever he want with the clay, right? He can make it into anything he want, right? So it says, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, right? Hold on. Let's get this real quick. Let's go to Romans real quick. We got to understand how the Most High God do things around here. Let's get Romans 9. And let's get Romans 9:21. So it says, have not the potter power over the clay, the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another to dishonor. So God says he's in control of this whole thing. So if he want to make a nation and create a nation to do a specific deed and a specific task and be a specific way, he can do that, right? You know, let's jump up to 17. Let's jump up to 15. Then it says, for he said unto Moses, I will have mercy on who I will have mercy. So it is up to, God says he has mercy on who he has mercy on, right? So we always be worrying about this or that or this or that. We don't know his reason. He's having mercy on who he has mercy on. Then it says, and I will have compassion on who I will have compassion. So God decides with his all sovereignty who he's going to make great and who he's going to not make so great, right? You know, he decides that. Like we just read, like we read in Daniel, the Most High God rules in the kingdom of men. Like that, we should know this. That's what the angels that were speaking to Daniel was telling them. Like, look, this is something that you should know. The Most High God rules in the kingdom of men. And we went to several verses explaining how God look at us as clay, and he's like the potter that shapes and molds the clay and do whatever he wants, right? So then it says, so then it's not of him that willeth, nor him that runneth, but of God that showed mercy. So meaning, there's nothing you can do or not do, you know, because God is going to decide if he's going to show you mercy or not, right? Because like the Bible says, God searches the heart, right? So he's going to know if you're sincere or not and deserving of his mercy and his compassion, right? So it says, for the scripture has said unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose I have raised thee up. So this is the point. So it says, for the scripture has said unto Pharaoh, for this same purpose I have raised thee up. Right? So back over here real quick. Let's read it. And it says, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made the whole earth drunken. Right? So this golden cup that God is using, you know, that golden cup, you know, that's prominent, right? Remember Lil Jon and the East Side Boys? Yeah. Remember he used to have his little chalice, you know, that was a big thing. Walk around with the chalice and stuff like that, right? That was a big thing, right? So this golden cup, America became the thing. Everybody wanted to, you know, come to America, right? Be a part of what America got going on. So back over here, it says, for the scripture said unto Pharaoh, even for the same purpose I had risen thee up, that I might show my power in thee, that my name might be declared throughout the earth. For therefore have he had mercy on who he will have mercy on, and he will harden who he will harden. Right? And he's hardened Mr. Trump right now, number 47, right? And making them make these decisions and do these different things and bringing this coming war into effect, right? This inner fighting with NATO that we can read throughout Daniel, right? So, you know, so we got to understand how the Most High God is working this thing, right? So back over here. There's Revelation, boom, boom, boom. Back to Revelation. So it says, with whom the kings of the earth had committed fornication, and the habitation of the earth have made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Because America is this great nation that everybody want to be a part of, their philosophies, you know, all that stuff, you know, they want to be down. They, you know, all these nations, you know, they like brandy. In the early 90s, I want to be down, what you going through. You know, that's what they try to do, right? So it says, so she carried away in spirit into the wilderness and saw a woman upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So it's talking about this NATO, this America thing, this, and that woman is talking about America, because America is sitting on top of the beast, right? And that scarlet-colored, robe is talking about the prestige and the majesty that people look at this place, or they used to look at this place, when it's at its peak, right? So it says, he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of the name of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So, and like I said, so full of blasphemy, because, they run this thing with deceit, I'm saying? They, and they push and propagate their Western philosophy and make everybody get down with the program, right? And it says, the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and colored and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup, golden cup in her hand, full with abomination and filthiness of her fornication. So again, it says the woman arrayed in scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones. So it's talking about that military, because they had that, the purple was talking about their prestige, the royalness, the greatness of it. That scarlet is talking about their military might that NATO possesses, right? And people were enamored by it. That's why Ukraine, we was talking about it the other day, Ukraine is getting their 50 cent on. They die trying to get a part of NATO, because because the military is so strong, right? So they want to be a part of that. So it says, and a woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stone and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So this is all the wickedness America possesses and propagate and does, right? And influence. And got the other nations, involved in it, right? Then it says, and upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots, abomination of the earth. And that's what this place is, right? Mystery Babylon. They carry on the tradition of ancient Babylon through their holidays, their philosophies, their religions, everything that they push and propagate, That's why this place is referred to in many places as the daughter of Babylon, right? Mystery Babylon. This place is a mystery Babylon. This place is Babylon. Look at ancient Babylon. Babylon was the same thing we described. A melting pot of people, right? All these different stuff clashing, coming together, right? Trying to coexist, right? And what did God do to the original land of Babylon with the Tower of Babel? He destroyed it, right? He split it up, right? Because that wasn't what was going on, right? So same thing. This place is the same modern day Babylon. That's why it's referred to that. It says, and I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints. And who is the blood of the saints? The Israelites, right? We are the blood of the saints, in case you don't know, right? And because the saints is not Mother Teresa, Saint Valentine's, that a lot of these people about to go celebrate that murderous man, Saint Valentine. It's not none of those people, right? It's the Israelites, right? Just hold on. Hold up. Right here, Psalms 50 and 5. So it says, gather my saints together unto me. So God said, gather my saints unto me. So who's these saints that God is calling and want them to be gathered? And it says, those that made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So who made a covenant with God by sacrifice? Do it. I mean, we're familiar with the history. The Israelites with Moses in the wilderness. When we came into the covenant and took the law and said that, okay, we're going to worship the Most High God as our God and we're going to be his people. We did that. So we are the saints. And, I mean, gather my saints together unto me, those that made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Right? And we know who those people are. Right? So back over here. So it says, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Because this place was very wicked, very evil to our people, right? And even our dear brother John is looking at it like, and he was in prison in solitary confinement, for lack of better terms, on the island of Patmos, and he's looking like, dang, these people really wicked. They really getting down like that. Dang. Took him by surprise. And think about it, right? I'm joking on this part right here, but think about it. Because back then, BC, whatever you want to call it, they was unaliving people in the most brutalest way you can think of, right? Putting you inside of ovens, decapitations, all this crazy mannerism stuff. Yeah, this crazy stuff, right? Just crazy. It's like they was experimenting on how to unalive people back there, right? So John is living during that time when they were experimenting on different ways. They got a show called 1,000 Ways to Die. They was coming up with that shit during that time, right? And John was living during that time when it was creating 1,000 Ways to Die. So he saw the horribleness of people. And he's looking at this vision of how these people is treating us. And he's like, wow, dang, this is crazy, right? Imagine that. So, and I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. He's like, wow, this is crazy. Like, these people are very vicious, right? And they are. And, let's get it. But think about it. If you live back then, and we know they was experimenting on how to hurt people back then. So they was doing a lot of crazy stuff. So to see something, you have to see something that was kind of crazy. Let's get Matthew. Where I went? Hold up. Never mind. Let's get hold up. Let's see this. So, so let's get, hold on, let's go back over here real quick. Alright, okay, let's read this first though before we get to Exodus. So it says, and the angel said unto me, wherefore did thou marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and the beast that carry her, which had 7 heads and 10 horns. Right? Then it says, and the beast that thou sawest was and not, and yet and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose name were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. And when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So right? So, because like I said, in this place, because the beast that during that time it was the Roman Empire was the beast that was during that time, and the beast, it was the beast that was because it faded away. It was telling you that it's going to be because the Roman Empire ended up falling, but then it was calling it the beast that is because they're operating and running things now during the time of John. So of course we use that same phraseology because America is the beast that is, and yet it's going to be that beast that falls, right? So it says back over here. Hold up. It says the beast thou saw was that was and is not, and shall ascend to the bottomless pit and go into perdition, right? So, and perdition is destruction, and that's what happened because the bottomless pit, is what we will say, Europe, because Europe is the bottomless pit because it has no natural resources like that. That's why those nations that live in Europe, they all feed off of Africa and their natural resources and everywhere else they go around the world. So that's why it's the bottomless pit. It's not no spooky, ooky stuff, how they may teach it, somewhere else, right? So, and it says, the beast that thou sawest and is not shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. So it's going to come out of America, and that was the Renaissance era when they had that rebirth, because the Renaissance means rebirth. And, and so they had that rebirth during that time. Then it says, and shall go to perdition, meaning, but they're destined to be destroyed at the end. Because like it tells us in Ezra, Esau's is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning that follows, right? Then it says, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. So all these other nations, is going to wonder. And they're going to be like, wow. And it's going to be amazing, amazing in the fact of, that it was a place that you can go to Google Maps and see. And now, you go to Google Maps, it ain't there no more. What's going on? Whoa, that's amazing, right? So, yeah, when you remember those little commercials when they be doing the little stain commercials, you got the little cleaning supplies. Wow, that's amazing, right? It's gonna be like that when they look at the Google Maps. So that's why the whole world's gonna be like taken back by it, because it's gonna be crazy. I know I'm joking about it, but it's gonna be crazy, right? Imagine 350 something million just boop, nowhere to be found. It's crazy. So what it says? Well, mine is the good ones. So what did it say? Oh yeah, Exodus 12 and 28:9. And it shall come to pass that the midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on the throne, and to the firstborn of the captives that were in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. Right? So that's how God judged Egypt the first time. So we know this place is called the spiritual Egypt. Read about that, Revelation chapter 11. He killed the firstborn. But this time, he's going to unalive not just the firstborn, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the mother, the sister, the brother, the cousins. Right? They all got to go. Right? And it tells us that in the book of Isaiah. Right? So, that's what's going on here. So then it says, the beast that thou sawest. Okay, I read that. And it says, and there is in the mind which have wisdom 7 heads and 7 mountains, and on which the woman sits. So these are the different nations and provinces, that encompass NATO and the EU, and America, of course, runs it and governs it. They sit on the the head seat of the board, right? You know, of course, along with their little France and Germany and America, but you know, they running things. Of course, they running things. Look at what they doing, right? Then it says, and there was 7 kings, and five are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. So that is America, because you know Britain ended up falling. Then America risen up after the fall of Britain, you know, because the Revolutionary War, they took them out during that time, and they got their sovereignty from Britain. So that's why it says, where that boom boom boom. It says, and there was 7 kings, 5 are fallen, one is, and the other is not. Meaning, they haven't rose up to the scene yet, because the future, you know, thing. Then it says that, but yet come, and when he come, he must continue for a short space. So he's going to come. He's going to be for a short space, right? And you know, because like I said, after the fall of the Britain Empire, the Spanish and the Britain Empire, so that little horn, which is America, they rose up and took over, right? But then it says, and when he come, he must continue for a short space, right? Because then that's when Christ come back with the millions and millions of angels cracking the sky to, you know, put order back in this place, right? So then it says, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is the 7th, go into perdition, right? So now, America goes into perdition. Boom, they get destroyed in this coming war. The 8th is the Russians, the Putin with the vacas and stuff. Very good. That's my Russian impression. So they're going to try to come up and do some things, right? We read about that, Ezra, I think Revelation 18, right? Right? So they're going to try to, since NATO is no longer a factor no more, so now they be like, well, shoot, now we the big dogs now. BRICS Squad, right? Because they BRICS over there, right? BRICS Squad. So the real Pooh Shiesty, Gucci Mane, all of them, they're going to be like, all right, we the new head honchos, right? That's what, you know, they're going to think. But then what it say? It says, and the beast that was, and it is not, even he is the 8th. So that's what the one we read about in chapter 18 of Revelation that gets destroyed. But America gets destroyed in the middle of World War III. And then it says, so America's not even going to make it to the end. Russia, they're going to make it to the end to fight the champ. You know, they're going to see the champ. You know, they're going to see that black man by the name who people call Christ. But these people now, not so much. They first round knockout, right? When it get going. So it says, and even he is the 8th, and the 7 go into perdition. So they go into perdition. Boom, they out there, cause they run up on a black man named Christ, and they get up out of there real quick. Then it says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest are the 10 kings which have received no kingdom yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So, you know, you have all these different nations. They got 32 nations under their little umbrella. So, although they're not, a lot of those nations are not as mighty as the big 4, right, that's in there. But since they're in that umbrella, you know, they got clout too. You know, ain't nobody gonna go mess with, Guam over there. You know, ain't nobody gonna go into Taiwan, you know, unless they, you know, want that smoke. Ain't nobody gonna come into what's another place that they got some diplomatic ties. You know, wherever they got their little stuff at, ain't nobody just gonna go up in there, you know, cause they got, you know, got their ties. But it says, so that's why it says, the 10 horns which are thou saw are 10 kings which have received no kingdom yet, meaning, you know, they don't have their own kingdom yet, because they, you know, surviving off this whole North Atlantic Treaty pact that they got going on, and the supplies and the support that they get from America and other countries, right? So it says and have no power. It says, and receive no kingdom yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour. So because they're in that organization, they get still, they get that protection, even though it's kind of faltering now because, America talking their big stuff. But, that's how it was ran for a long time. Right? And it says, and these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So that's what they did. They gave all their military might to the beast. When you get into the whole contract of it, every country is supposed to give 2% of their GDP to the NATO to help support their military pack so they can keep it strong. But, remember number 47 came on TV, a while back, was, complaining about how they're not even hitting their mark, to help keep the, NATO afloat. And he said, matter of fact, we ain't doing 2%. We need y'all to do 4%. That's what I was talking about earlier about the whole, using the TV show Wired to explain what's going on over there when Marlo took out, Prop Zoe and start changing the rules. So it's the same thing, you're like, look, y'all not even paying the 2% that you're supposed to pay. And matter of fact, we want 4%. God dang it. Let's do 4% of everything y'all make. So, but it says, these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So that's what they did. They said, all right, look, yeah, we down with that. We're going to, whenever you need our soldiers, they there. Whatever money, whatever, right? We're going to do that. Keep this thing strong. And they shall make war with the Lamb, right? Because they're going to try to fight against that poor black man named Christ, right? They already done killed the man before. And he going to come back with the millions and millions of angels with him. And they're going to try to fight against him. And it says, and they shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For the Lord, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called faithful and chosen. Because he's going to have not only the millions and millions of angels with him, the 200 million angels, should I say, 200 million, don't get it twisted. Then he's going to have the 144,000 black Supermans, 144,000 Mike Tysons, 144,000 John Wicks, 144,000 Rambos, right? With them, right? It's gonna be crazy. So that's what's going on here. And it says, and these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called chosen and faithful, right? Because he can be rolling with them peoples. Let's get Isaiah's real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Isaiah 66 real quick. Isaiah 66 and 24. So yeah, they're gonna run up, they're gonna think they can come and fight against this man, right? Because Hollywood and, their movies done tricked them. They done made so many, movies where they fight against aliens and they win. They really believe that it's some type of intergalactic, interdimensional being come to this earth. They gonna fight it, right? And they gonna win. They got Will Smith on their side, and that white guy that can, with the glasses that can hack into computers. They'd be good, right? That's what they're thinking. So it says, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcass of the men that have transgressed against me. So when they run up, they're gonna be left where they was standing, and everybody gonna see them. And it says, has transgressed against me, and for their worm shall not die, neither shall the fire be quenched. They shall be a horn to unto all flesh. Meaning, we're going to remember when these people decided to fight against our King, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. We're going to remember it. And we're going to look at them like, these people are like one stupid group of people. Like, what is wrong with these people? We know that they always go running whenever they hear a loud noise. They go check it out. But you really going to go fight against this? Like, just to say, like, we don't know what this is, right? We know, just to say, but you just see a being from not of this place pop up, and not just him. He got the millions and millions of other entities with him, and your thought is, let's go fight it. See, it's crazy, right? But that's what they do, and it's going to be the worst thing they ever did, because it says, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcass of the men that have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched. They shall be a horn unto all flesh. Meaning, we're going to look at their carcasses and be like, wow, these people are this is very dumb. Just like how we look at those shark videos when people go into the water with shark-infested waters, and like, oh my God, get attacked by a shark. And we like, yeah, you probably did get attacked by a shark. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, shoot. So that's how we're going to look at it, like, right? Back over here. And it says, let's get, matter of fact, let's get Matthew real quick. Let's see what Matthew talking about. But it says, think not I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill. And, he, of course, fulfilled his portion of the prophets. But more importantly, we talk about the prophets had written, things down. And these things have to happen, right? Whether we like it, understand it, or not. And it says, and verily I say unto you, until heaven and earth pass, not one jot or tittle shall no wise pass from the law. Until all, because some people be like, man, this is horrible. Why we, you reading this stuff? This sounds bad. Oh my God. But it says, no wise pass from the law until all be fulfilled. Right? So this has to happen, whether you like it, believe it, understand it, or not. But we shouldn't be fearful of it, because we got to understand that our God fight for us, right? All this devastation and havoc we've been reading about is in the protection of his people, right? That's what we got to understand. When you look at it from that, point of view, it doesn't seem so horrible, because, if you got kids and you a parent, how far are you willing to go save your people, your kids? What you gonna do? Right? If they being mistreated and all that stuff, what would you do? So when you start looking at it like that, it ain't that bad. I mean, because what would you do? Right? What would Jesus do? Right? So, it says, to all be fulfilled. Right? And that's what we got to understand. So back over here. Let's get, matter of fact, let's get our dear brother Ezekiel before we go back over there. 24 and 8 says that the mighty that it might cause fury to come up and take vengeance. I have set her blood upon the top of the rock, that it should not cover it. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, woe to the bloody city. So, woe to this bloody city, America, right? Because that's what they call this place, the great city. Woe to, therefore, thus saith the Lord God, woe to the bloody city, meaning destruction to the bloody city. I will even make the pile, the ply for fire great, and a heap of wood, kindle the fire, consume the flesh, and the spice it well, and let the bones be burnt. And how is that going to happen with that ICBM, those thermonuclear weapons that those people got, that that hypersonic ballistic missile that China got that can hit America, and they won't even know what to do, to about 3-5 minutes. Then like, okay, we got to do something. But then it's too late. What you gonna do in 3 or 5 minutes? Right? Nothing. But I don't know. I mean, I guess you can do a few things in about 3 or 5 minutes. But it's crazy, right? That's all you're gonna have when that stuff happens. Then it say, where that? Then boom boom boom, it says therefore thus said the Lord, woe to the bloody city. I will even make the pile of a fire great, heap on wood, kindle the fire, consume the flesh, and the spice it well, and let the bones burn. And then set the empty upon the coals thereof, that the brass of it may be hot, and may burn, and that the filthiness of it may be molten in it, that the scum of it may be consumed. Right? And that's how he's going to get down on this place. It's going to be a thorough destruction over here. Right? When them things go off. Back over here. Boom. Matter of fact, do we need that one? Hold on. So yeah, let's get Matthew 12 and 25 real quick. So it says, can we gotta understand, because this place is divided, and and that's what we read about in Daniel. So this is Matthew 12 and 25. And Jesus knew their thoughts, and said unto them, every kingdom divided, like America, NATO, the EU, they're divided in their politics, like we read in the book of Daniel, how they're don't mix together. Clay and myrrh doesn't mix, right? But they're forcing it together, right? They only holding it together because of their military might. That's the only thing that kind of keep them together, right? But it says, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. Right? That's what's going on here. This kingdom is divided against himself. You got a potential war with their closest allies for almost damn near 100 years. Right? I don't know how many friends you have for 100 years. How many friends you've been friends with for 100 years. Right? They about to go to war. Right? Then you got a potential civil war in your own nation, because everybody mad about something, and they want to, fight. I mean, we ain't mad. We just commentating. We just watching it with a big bag of popcorn. We're commentating here. We don't care about what these people do to each other. We just trying to make sure we're not caught up in the middle by going back, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and doing what God tells us to do, so we can just sit back and watch. Right? That's the plan. But civil war, they mad at each other. They're gonna tear this place up pretty soon, right? And it says, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand, right? And that's what's going on. City against city. You got politicians going against politicians. The stuff that's going on in Minnesota. They trying to prosecute some of the little Democrat people up there. For what? They the one that unalived the woman up there. And they trying to make something out of nothing instead of just prosecuting the man for doing what he did. Right? But we don't live in a system of justice. That's why the Bible says that they don't operate in truth. They don't run this place in truth. We read that earlier. Right? And it says, if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. So if NATO decide to go and fight against Trump because they got to defend Greenland, they're divided against themselves, right? And that's the fall, and that's what we're reading about in Daniel, and that's what we're reading about right now in Revelation, right? So that's what's going on here. So back up here. So it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. And that's what's going on. They're going to hate the whore. And they're starting to hate the whore. They looking at America like, yo, you wildin', yo. Like, all right, okay, enough is enough. Like, you going to make us have to, we know we ain't got the soldiers and the technology to go against you like that, but we're going to have to, if we have to double team you and join with Russia and everybody else, we on that with you, right? Because it says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. And that's what we're seeing when we turn on TV and, Macron over there in France talking about, look, yo, you don't do that. So we're going to send our soldiers over there. You got Denmark and them sending soldiers, Germany, everybody, right? So it says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked. And that's what they're doing. They exposing themselves and exposing America for what they are. They're exposing themselves as being a weak coalition, and in a brick squad, they're going to take advantage of that, right? They're going to see the weakness. Like when you get into like the fall of, empires or society, it's always a event that kind of let the other side know, like, hey, I think we got these guys. I think we can take them. They ain't really who they say they were, right? And they found that out when Sleepy Joe Biden was president. He was very weak. Russia would have never did it. I was president. No one never did it, right? When they went into Ukraine the first time, and he did these little sanction things on them and seized some of their Russian oligarchs' money, Putin like, really? That's what you're doing? So you're gonna take? I went into a country, and you're gonna take a whole bunch of rich people money from them? Alright, that's your move? That's what you're gonna do, America? Alright, let's go further into this thing. So, Putin would have never did it as a president, right? So, it happens, so during that time, that was the, event that some may say that the world was looking at America like, whoa, these people kind of weak, yo. That's your move? Alright, so then that's when China started talking about, well, shoot, we want Taiwan then. That's when the whole Taiwan talk started happening. Cause they like, well, shoot, all you doing is sanctioning people and taking money from rich people that has nothing to do with anything. Okay, well, shoot, we can do it. Let's go. Let's take Taiwan. So it always like when you study history and the fall of empires, there's always a event that happened that kind of lead into the, that kind of give, their opposition confidence to, to actually take them down, right? So it says, and shall make her desolate and naked and eat her flesh. So they're going to eat her flesh. They're going to go to war with this place, right? And it says, and burn her with fire. Because they got, although they might not be soldier for soldier, but they got some weapons over there. They ain't got as many nukes as America, but they got some stuff. They got a little something, right? You don't need a whole bunch of stuff, to do, all them things. If you got a nuke, what I'm saying? You just need a few, right? And so it says, and these shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked and eat her flesh and burn her with fire, right? And that's what's going to eventually happen because they're going to get tired of this place, right? If this thing keep escalating, right? Because he already said, you didn't give me the Nobel Peace Prize. I wanted peace, and now I got to go to war. That's why you didn't get it, right? They didn't give it to you because you're trying to go to war with everybody, right? So that's what he's on, right? So it says, For God have put in their hearts to fulfill His will. So God is putting the Spirit on these people to do it, right? So it's going to happen. He's putting the Spirit on them, right? To turn against this place, right? Because like it tells us right here, like it tells us right over here, in the book of Jeremiah, it tells us exactly this right here, book of Jeremiah 50 and 22. A sound of battle is in the land and great destruction, right? So, and he's putting a spirit on these people. Then it says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken, right? So the whole hammer of the earth is America, because they go around trying to dictate and tell every nation what to do in their country, right? When they can't even run this dang old country proper, right? But they do that, right? And it says, how has Babylon become desolate among the nations, right? And that's what people are going to be wondering, like, how is this great military, great strong country, how are they like desolate? Like, you sure Google Maps working? Because I went into Google Maps and I tried to type it in and I don't see it nowhere. I just see a whole bunch of water on where it should be something like a landmass. What's going on over there, right? How has Babylon become desolate among the nations? I had laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken. So God is saying, I'm laying a trap for you people, right? To bring you along this whole path of destruction, leading you down the road of perdition, right? And it says, I had laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. Even thou was not aware, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast strive against the Lord. And that's what they do. They strive against the Lord and their practices, their way of life, what they teach, religion, all that stuff, right? And that's where we at with it. What else? The other one I was looking for. Where is it? Hold up. Not this. So it's Joel 3 and 9. So it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Right? So that's what these nations are doing. They're preparing war. It says, prepare war, wake up the mighty man. Let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Right? And that's what these people is doing. They're getting ready for war. That's why all these nations is, gearing up, and they looking at America like, what you want to do? If you do that, we're going to have to do that with you. Right? Then it says, beat your plowshares into swords, meaning, a lot of these manufacturing companies is, wrapping up their military production, weapons, supplies, all that stuff, right? Beat your plowshares into your plowshares into swords, and your prune hooks into spears, and let the weak say, I am strong. So these nations going to start, getting confidence, like, you know what? Forget America. I can, we can, take them. Let's team up if we got to, right? It says, let the weak say, I am strong, right? Assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather together around about hither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord, right? Let the heathen be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all heathens round about, right? So, like I said, that's what's going on. He's bring them out, right? So that's what's happening. He's putting the spirit on these nations, right? And because they're not going to stand for the stuff anymore, right? They're not going for it. Because it says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the horror, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kings and give their kingdom to the beast. Right? So they agreed to give their kingdom to the beast, right? And they're like, all right, we're gonna roll with you. And it says until the word of the Lord shall be fulfilled. Right? And it says, and the woman which thou sawest is the great city, which is called America, which reign over the kings of the earth. And that's what this place do. They reign over the kings of the earth, right? Through their military might that they have, right? And so that's what's going on here. Hold on, let's get one more before we out of here. Okay, now we read this one already. Alright, cool. Let's see, hold up. But we can read this one. This is 2 Ezra 12 and 11. It says, the eagle, we know that represent America. The eagle whom thou sawest come from the sea is the kingdom which thou seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. But it was not expound unto him. Therefore now I declare it unto thee. Behold, the days will come that there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth that shall be feared above all kingdoms that were before it. And that's this place, right? They came up because they done dropped the bomb on them poor little people over there in Nagasaki, Hiroshima. And they put fear into the world. That's how they was able to form NATO, because all those other countries like, all right, America, we join with you then. We'll get down and lay down, right? So that's what we're dealing with, right? That's why it says over here, and these shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked and eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Jump down to 18. And the woman which thou sawest is a great city which reign over the earth of the kings. That is this place called America, right? And so we understand, so, plan for this place. God is not going to let this thing, continue on, right? And he's waking up these nations to, go to war against this place. And, it's going to happen. So, hopefully that was edifying. We understand, like, although we see this man on TV losing his mind, doing crazy stuff, but it's all according to biblical prophecy. It's all according to the Most High God plan, and, how he want to bring forth the destruction of this place and deliver his people from the land of their captivity. So, I'm going to say shalom, peace, Kwam Yashra Allah. Hopefully that was edifying. Until next time, we out. Peace.